So today we're installing a pressure side power steering hose on a 2004 Corvette Convertible. Greg, the head technician here at Jackalone & Sons, is actually preparing right now to start on it, getting it cleaned up where power steering fluid doesn't drip on his head. You can see on this car, when we get up under it, how tight it's going to be to reach in to do this. There's very little room. The shop manual pays about 2 hours to change it. I believe he can access it through here with his hand. Here, if you look closely, you'll see the fitting, I believe, for the power steering pump, which is up in there. Then the other fitting will be at the steering rack, which we'll access afterwards. You can see up in here now that we have the fitting out of the pump. Look closely, I believe you'll be able to see where the fitting goes into the bottom of the pump. It's not really easy to access, but it is accessible through the front where you can get to it. I believe there's the fitting right there. We got that end of the hose loose. Now we'll move to the top and the wheel well to get the fitting off of the steering rack. So if you look closely, you can see the two fittings that go to the rack. The top one is the one that comes from the power steering pump. That's the one we'll be removing here momentarily. We're just letting the car cool down because it just came in here a short while ago, so it's still pretty warm. But it'll be accessible from underneath the alternator from the back. So Greg's pulling the hose out through the opening between the tire and the lower subframe. Now that he's removed both ends of the fittings. Let's see if we get a little better shot here. You can see it comes out right through there. So he's reinstalling the new hose now, going back through the same opening that he took it out of. You can see it goes right in there below where the steering tie rod end is, right above the subframe. Just tucks it back through that way, feeds it up toward the power steering pump. That end that he has there is the one that attaches to the steering rack. And that's it. He's got it in location. Now it'll be just a question of attaching the fittings to the different ends. So we have the new fitting for the new hose attached to the steering rack, which you can see here. And actually where you're looking down from is right in front of the alternator, just below the power steering pump. And you can access this from under the hood. You actually end up reaching underneath the alternator from the back to get to it. See if I can get you a shot here. And you can see, yeah, it's the upper one there is the one you're going after. And you can reach through underneath the alternator. We did not have to remove the alternator to get to that. So now we're underneath the car. You can see there's the new fitting going into the bottom of the power steering pump from the new hose. You can see where it runs over from the rack, crosses underneath the steering rack where the steering column goes into the rack. It goes right up to the bottom of the pump. Try to get you a better shot here. There we are. And you access actually the fitting over the top of the rack. See if we can get a shot of it here. It's pretty tight quarters here, but it is doable. You can just see the fitting there going into the bottom of the pump. But you can reach over the top of the rack to access it. But you can see and move the camera back here so you can get a little bit wider angle shot. You can actually see the fitting going in. Get the angle right on the camera here for you, and the light. But yeah, it's not too bad to do it. You do need to get underneath the car, whether you put it up on jack stands or whether you have a lift, but you will have to access the power steering pump fitting from underneath.